Hey everyone, it's your energy healer Zach Lewis. Today we're going to do an energy healing on money. The other day I posted a story on Instagram about money, our money patterns, our money beliefs, and the conditioning that creates a lot of that stuff. And it got a really good response to my surprise. It surprised me because I was very stern and didn't let people get away with the BS stories we tell ourselves. So I actually had someone reach out and inquire about a session. Turns out we weren't a match for a session, but I still wanted to help them and help anybody else in a way that could benefit more people than just one person. So I'm going to do a pick a healing on money. If you're new here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a bunch of numbers on the screen. Go ahead and pick whichever one you're guided to. And then I will do a specific energy healing based on the energetic blocks and patterns that I'll sense and read from you. If you want to know more about how this works, I've got a podcast that talks all about it. But in this, I just want to focus on helping you out. So I'll pop the numbers up now. Give you a second to make a decision. Okay, cool. So first things first, I'm going to do a grounding meditation that I recommend you hang out for. And then you can go to the video description, click the timestamps, and that will jump you to whichever number you picked. And you can do that healing. All right, so we're going to start off with a grounding meditation. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and take a deep breath in through our nose. Hold. Release. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Release. Hold. Inhale. Go ahead and keep that rhythm going at your own pace. You might already be feeling different. I'm starting to generate frequencies that allow transformation to happen. If you don't feel anything, that's fine. Just in case you are feeling like heat, buzzing sensation, tingling, anything like that. Just want you to know what's going on. Just pay attention to your physical body. Stay in your body. Don't float out of yourself. This is not an out-of-body experience. Just stay right here. Stay grounded. If it's helpful, you can visualize a cord or pillar or light going down into the center of the earth, and that will give you that sense of anchoring. Just working on you guys. Okay. That's good. All right, let's go ahead with group number 1. So I'm gonna scan your patterns, see what's up for you guys, and then I'll talk about it a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and do an energy healing to help you move through that. So give me a sec. Okay, so this group, there's like a lot of religious stuff going on. So even if you don't operate from a religious paradigm, even if that's like you don't follow any of like the orthodox religions or anything like that, that conditioning can still be affecting you. If you believe in past lives, think of how likely it is that you could have incarnated previously in, you know, a monk's body or somebody that cared a lot about religion, even if you in your current reality don't feel that that's like that big of a deal. And if you don't believe in past lives, just think about like your parents or your parents' parents or your parents' parents' parents, and just keep going up the generations so that you can understand like how big of an impact religion had on people's perceptions of one another. And just like that might be where this comes up. So one thing that this group will feel is they'll feel like a profound obligation to be a good person, to do good and not do bad things. So one place that has its roots in is like the whole heaven and hell thing. So I'm not here to say what's right or what's wrong. I'm just talking about this is the pattern, and I'll explain how it's affecting your money situation. Okay, so it just came in right there. So basically what happens is if you have associated to money that money is the result of doing something bad, even if it's not something that you consciously think, even if it's something that you subconsciously think, it's something that you hear around you in your environment over and over and over again, you're going to deflect wealth. You'll find ways to make sure that wealth doesn't make it to you. So even if you have like a promotion or, you know, a lucky break or like a big pile of money that comes into you, you'll find some way to squander it or lose it or spend it all or like raise your expenses, or you'll do all this stuff so that you don't get to experience the good side, because the pattern that you have running is like money equals bad. It's like money equals corruption, or like the simplest version of it is money equals bad. So as long as you have that, in order for you to remain a good person, then you can't have the money. I'm stirring up a lot of stuff. So let's talk about that. Give me a sec. What came up in that moment was a picture of the devil. So the devil gets personified as, you know, lust, temptation, seduction, sloth, gluttony, all that stuff. And there's part of us that doesn't want to move towards that. So then what happens is, even if you're not religious, you have like an inherent feeling that that's a good thing for you not to succumb to, not to lose yourself to. So the truth in that, the part of it that's really beneficial for you, is making sure that you don't lose yourself to anything. So the devil, it's like this big scary picture and this big scary symbol that represents like all of the bad things. So it's really natural for us to not want that experience in our life where we lose ourselves to things. Where it gets a little messed up is when we think that this other thing has the ability to corrupt and influence us. What it is it's a choice inside of ourselves. So creating your own sense of discipline and self-control and all of that stuff, that's good. Like that's very helpful. You can take that without bringing on the huge fear that if you have a level of abundance, then you are just like the devil. Even if you don't think this consciously, this is just kind of what I'm picking up on the more subtle layers. If you think that you have this program, cool, let's clear it. And if you don't think you have this program, pay a lot of attention to it. Like if you don't think you have it, definitely just let me do this thing if you want. So another benefit that you get from running that current program is a tremendous amount of belonging. Just think of how much more you get along with other nice people. After a certain level of like spiritual evolution, we like get beyond this whole polarity thing where it's like there's good and bad, and it's like we simplify things into two layers. So like a good example of this is, let's just stir it all up. A good example of this is politics. You have one side saying that the other side is wrong, the other side says the other side's wrong, and then we just keep going back and forth, insisting that one side is the right side and the other one's the wrong side. Obviously, the actual way forward is through the middle way, taking elements of each side and not getting sucked into the game of polarity, because when we're in polarity, we're just yelling and screaming at each other. Nothing is actually occurring and helpful and like moving things forward. So the same thing applies inside of ourselves. As long as we're governed by good and bad, of like, am I doing the right things in the eyes of whatever it is that I believe in, as long as we're playing that game, it's just safer to not have money, to not have abundance. So money is just one aspect of abundance, but that's a whole nother video. But let's work on just clearing that pattern out for you. So if you want this, you always have control. So you can either open up your energy and say yes, or you can close off and say no. Do whatever feels right to you. But I'm just going to start working on the patterns now. So it feels like some of us might be thinking like, is he the devil? And that's a good indication that that pattern is being brought up out of you for you to look and examine it again. It's like on a computer, when you click on it, then it pops up and it goes, do you want to delete this? So that's what that is if you feel that emotionally. (40–50% of us are good to release this pattern. There's something else that the rest need. So let me see if I can find what that is. Okay, so it's like an insurance on getting into heaven. Why risk it? Okay, so let's do this. This might be helpful. So if that is coming up for you, or you feel something about that resonating in you, even if it doesn't belong to you and it started way before you, but if you feel that coming up for you, if we change our view of death, let's say it's like the turning point between when a child becomes an adult, and let's say we're the parent. Let's say they become an adult at 30. Just imagine if you were the father and you saw the child growing up and going through all of their experiences, learning, growing, and all this stuff, and you saw them suffering, in pain, frustrated, in agony. Would it make any sense to you that as soon as they cross that threshold and become 31, that instantly now it's like you're going to say, okay, you suffered enough, now I'm going to bless you with all these things? Does it make any sense? So if you view that as the same relationship with death, where it's just that crossing over point, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, think of it like this. Let's say they start off as a child and then they start learning all these different things, learning all these different lessons. They start going through all this stuff, and then they start beginning to create heaven in their own experience. They create their own reality of heaven by going through like their learning and spiritual growth and all those things. And then they start creating these heavenly patterns that are always around them. And that kind of becomes their world, that becomes their reality. They act like a heavenly person. They act very virtuous and all those things. So take that, and then they become 31. Now does it make sense that as they cross over, that experience of heaven is going to continue to exist and expand out into the rest of their new phase of life? So I hope that makes sense. So for any of us that feel like, oh, well, let's just not have money as an insurance policy to make sure that I'm going to get into heaven, or if you believe in like good people and bad people. So hopefully that metaphor can help you start seeing behind it. But I want to just get into the energy healing, and let's just start adjusting it. So I'm clearing out patterns of us needing like external reference points to help us decide who or how we're being, and bringing that back into you. It's just like when you were a baby and then in order to navigate the world was a big, scary world. And you didn't understand how it worked. So the best way for you to make it through that and survive that experience was by looking at all of the adults that are out there and then seeing how they react to the different things that we did. So as a baby, that's helpful. But after a certain point, just deciding our entire life based on the reactions of others, that's not the most helpful thing for us. So same thing here. You're just using whatever deity that you believe in as that like parent figure. So I'm just like helping you release the need for external confirmation that you're being a good person. Because for most of us, when we have an abundance, the natural desire is to share that. So a good example that will resonate for everyone here, it's like, when you find a funny video on social media or something, our natural tendency is like we get filled up with this joy and we have an overabundance of it that we turn to other people and then we want to share it with them. The only time that we don't want to share it is, if we've got some kind of wound around that, where it's like we're afraid of what they might think, or, the natural tendency is when we have an abundance of anything, including like laughter, joy, it's to exist as that very strongly so that it feels kind of like we're sharing it with other people. The same way that laughter is contagious, a smile is contagious, that's basically what you can have in terms of money, but you got to get rid of this whole like good and bad thing because that adds so much pressure to the whole situation. So that's what I'm helping you let go of. So after this, you'll start noticing how your finances, they start slowly expanding. The reason it's going to happen slow is so that you can basically see, it's like as you're letting go of the old patterns, you won't be as scared to let go of it anymore because I cleared a bunch of that stuff. What's going to happen is it's going to go slow so that you can kind of adjust to this new version of you. And it's kind of like sticking your toe in the pool just to see how it is. Your finances will start expanding, and then you will pause it for a second. You'll be like, is this okay? And then you'll keep going like, oh yeah, I'm not like that freaked out about it. And then it'll expand a little bit more, and it'll keep expanding in a very gradual way, which I know we might want like a big, windfall or a big pile of money to come just like to us really fast, but that can shock us and scare us, and then we can get back into like pushing it away again. That's a pattern that's up for you for today. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Later. Okay, what's up, group 2? What I'm noticing in this group is you just kind of have like a hole at the bottom of your boat. So then what you're doing is you're like the person in the boat that's like scooping all the water out, but you already have like the hole. So that's your experience of finances probably, is money comes in and then it just like runs through you really, really quickly. You might spend a lot. You might like have money come in. You're like, I don't even know where it goes. Like, how do I even, you don't feel like you're spending a lot, but it's just like, it goes through you very, very quickly. You don't even notice that there's that issue. So for this group, it's about savings. The distortion pattern here comes from feeling like you're greedy if you're hoarding. A lot of this comes from cultural programming, things like TV shows that we watch as little kids. Think of the characters that you saw that had a bunch of money in like TV shows and movies. How many evil billionaires did you see? Mr. Crab from SpongeBob, he wasn't the nicest guy. He was kind of like always pissed off. Scrooge McDuck, he was like super selfish. I don't know who the wealthy guys are on The Simpsons. Smithers and Mr. Burns. None of those people were people that we wanted to be. So what happened is we heard that story over and over and over again. So then one way that we allowed that to not become part of who we are was by having this pattern. For this group, it just kind of feels like money is a necessary evil. And you may have had personal experiences where you saw people using money in an abusive way. So what I want to separate out here is the difference between money being abusive and abusers being abusive. So think of that abuse that you saw. It might have been something that you experienced firsthand. It could have been something that you saw, something that you heard about, some kind of thing like that. And what I want you to do is like go back into that moment that you saw that abuse happening. Now remove money as the tool through which the abuser is using that. So let's say if you took the money away and they had to use like emotional pressure, if they had to use like insults, if they use timing, they would still be able to carry out that abuse. So for this group, it's really helpful to separate out the idea that money itself is inherently a bad thing that you want to just pass through you. You don't want to keep it. You don't want to hold on to it. This group, there's like a lot of guilt patterns going on here. So we're just like, yeah, I need a little bit and I need enough, but like you probably have been stuck at like certain plateaus with money and you just stay there for a really, really long time. So you might have this kind of story of like, okay, I don't want to become an abuser. I don't want to become abusive like that. And so I'll just only take as much of this as I need to sustain myself. You feel like you're breathing up all the air in the room and you don't want to breathe too much that you take away from other people, that you harm other people. So let's see what's the part of that pattern that's really useful to keep, and then I'll help you delete that one and install the new energy pattern. Letting things move through you quickly. This is trying to bring you closer to the idea of transformation. So just like in nature, how it grows, we harness the fruit and then it withers, then it dies, and then it comes back the next year even stronger and even bigger. That's the point of this regeneration. So what happens is, the apple tree, it grows up out of the ground, grows with branches, and the apples fall, then the seeds are there, those get germinated, then they start growing up other apple trees, and that's kind of like the natural order of things. So for you, you're not doing the whole growth process. You're going through like the transformation cycle, but there's no willingness to save, especially this thing that you feel like, is kind of just a necessary evil. There's this idea that if you've been abused, you're likely to become an abuser because you went through it, you survived that experience, so you know that it's not the end of the world if somebody else has to go through that. Obviously, people don't think about this consciously and they don't want to do that, but that's kind of what's running underneath the surface. What we're gonna do is we're just going to separate money out from abuse. So in the same way that the internet, it can be used for the black market, it can be used to like sell drugs and people's organs and all that creepy stuff, or it can be used to bring education, bring health, bring like wonderful learning, bring opportunity to remote, like desolate areas. So the internet itself is very, very neutral, but the way that we apply that, that's the thing that we have to pay attention to. So I'm just gonna work on this group, and for any of us that feel on a conscious or subconscious level that we might become like one of those abusers that we really, really don't like and don't want to exist as at all. So let me just clear that out for us. As always, you can say yes or no by opening or closing your energy. You just kind of say yes to this transformation, or you say no, you're the boss, you make your own decision. So I'm installing a pattern that money is neutral. And as that gets installed, you might see that some of the people that you thought were more powerful, they're going to lose quite a. They're going to lose like that status, so that might be disorienting for a while. You just like either you won't be as intimidated by people in power. Like this could work out where you are around your boss. Your boss is like, "Did you get that thing done by Monday at 8 a.m. like I asked?" And then you'll just be like, "No." And then your boss will be like, what do you mean? And then you'll kind of like think about it like a couple hours later, and you'll be like, how did I just say that? And like not get freaked out and get afraid. Let's see if I can do this too. So you start feeling a little bit more compassionate towards abusers. You won't tolerate the abuse. I mean, you have to make that decision over and over again, but I'm removing the patterning that makes it hard for you to act that way. But you'll be more compassionate because you'll see that the abuser is really attached onto you in order to help them feel safe and secure. Okay, cool. If you want, you can keep hanging out here, stay in meditation, and it'll still feel like you'll still feel whatever you're feeling in the meditation. Like the effects will continue. You can listen to this over and over and over again if you want to. And yeah, if you enjoyed this, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what's shifting for you. If you have any comments or questions, there's a bunch of ways for you to get a hold of me in the description box, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. All right, hey, group 3. I had to finish this up the next day, so change clothes and the haircut. But let's go ahead and get into yours. Yeah, so this group, you get really confused. So 1 minute, you know exactly how to make money. You've got like this clear financial plan. You know, your savings are working great. You've got all that stuff, like, and it works for you. Like, you're making a bunch of money. Like, you know exactly what you're doing, and then you flip. And all of a sudden, it's like you wake up 2 weeks later, and you're like confused and disoriented. You're like, how did I get here? What's happening? It's like waking up in the middle of a dream where you're just like, what is so disorienting. So the pattern that's going on here is if you have like multiple identities that you're stepping into. So then the identity that works for you, that runs it a lot of the time, and then you pop out into you. Then what happens is you're just like, how did I get here? So it's like a functional pattern that you've been using to, 1, to learn how to do all that stuff, 2, to have it like help you. But now it's getting to the point where it's like you need to be able to be that on your own. You need to like separate out into your own identity. This pattern probably came from, you know, like with childhood. A kid doesn't necessarily like learn everything through books that they read and, you know, doing their own research. And what they do is they're hanging out around with the parent, and then through osmosis they absorb all of the parent's patterns, behaviors, beliefs, habits, all that stuff. They just kind of absorb that and download that into them, and then they use that as the default program. So you've got that going with money. It's like almost like you let someone else come into you, which that might sound like a weird concept, but let me explain it this way. So imagine going over to a friend's house that you haven't seen in a while, or family members, or your parents, or whatever. And then all of a sudden, like after you have gone and spent time with them, you'll start noticing yourself, like you take on a lot more of their behaviors. And then like a week or 2 later, you wake up and you're like, wow, why am I doing that? Like you might start like when you go see them, you start cooking the same kinds of foods as them. You might be talking using like the same expressions that you use with them. It's like you'll notice how you absorb those same programs and patterns. So the way that it all connects with money is you've been using this as a method of learning for the longest amount of time, and then you found some money patterns that are good, some money patterns that aren't so good. So the ones that have worked the most, you've kind of like turned those into your default patterns. But there's a cost to this, where when you wake up 2 weeks later and you're like, whoa, what happened? Where am I? And then what happens is you're just like running somebody else's pattern. It's like you're letting them step into your space rather than you like staying solid on your own. Let's say like your uncle had really good money patterns. What happens is your uncle steps into you. Like, he's not doing this consciously, but he steps into you, he runs your finances for a while, and then what happens is you pop out 2 weeks later and you're like, whoa, what's happening? I'm making an investment in this thing, and it's like very disorienting. So what we want to do is we want to separate those two out first, so that you can identify when you're doing it, so you don't just like slip into that. So it's a very conscious decision. Eventually, you're probably going to want to get to the point where you just feel solid in and of yourself, where you don't have to learn in the same way necessarily. Because when we're a little kid, there's just so much information that we have to delete, distort, and generalize based on all the patterns and information that's just coming into us. Like, it's so overwhelming. So we have to use that as a method of learning in the beginning to sort through like the massive amount of data that's coming into us. But after a certain point, we've taken in quite enough data and we understand how everything works, and then we get to basically pick and choose. So right now you still are like absorbing, which leads to those like two different versions of you. So you might feel like when someone goes like, oh, do you have good money habits or bad money habits? You're like, well, I totally have both. Yeah, and the reason for that is like all this dual identity stuff that you got going on. For some of us, there may have even been points in our life with money where in the past where we said like, that's it, I am done, I am never going to do this again. It's like, it was a very final decision. It doesn't even have to be with money, it could have been with whatever, but like you just had this breaking point and you hit it and you're like, I am never doing this again, and you like split your identity there too. So yeah, so that might be important for some of us. Okay, so what do we want to move into? Give me a sec, let me check that out. Okay, so what you want to step into is like, it's a really organized sense of self. You know, if your house gets messy, the house representing your identity in this, if your house is all messy, things are strewn about, you know, the forks are in the cupboard and the plates, you're trying to shove those into where the silverware goes. It's like, if your house is in disorder, you just basically take everything out, take inventory of it, and then go back and intentionally start putting it into places. So I'll help you with that in this energy healing. Bring in some of those patterns of organizing your sense of self, going through and kind of like taking inventory of yourself. So then you'll start seeing like, okay, this is where I have a strength, this is where I have a weakness. Then you'll see what it is, and then you can make the necessary improvements and adjustments to basically edit yourself however you like, so that once you get to the end of this, where you have like very good money habits, like where you're saving a bunch, you're not spending too much, you feel like a certain sense of like openness and allowance to receive support, like all those things, it's going to feel like you. So you won't have that like thing where you get sucked out and feel like somebody else is crowding into your energy. So you'll just feel solid in and of yourself, and then you can build and increase wealth in like a much better way for you. Even if you make a bunch of money using this old way, what's going to happen is you won't be able to own the satisfaction of that. You'll feel only half the satisfaction of it, because half of it's not even you. I know this stuff sounds far out. Just if what I was talking about resonates at all and you want to do it, just go ahead and I'll start working on you. So after doing this, you might notice yourself feeling a lot more ruthless in terms of clarity. You're going to be like, yes, this is good. No, this is bad. You might push people away a little bit. And the reason for that is so that you can step more into yourself, which ultimately is going to be really good for them. So don't feel like you're, just because, you know, like you stop absorbing people into you and you stop absorbing their habits, like that's a good thing. It's a good thing for you. It's a good thing for them. So don't feel bad about that. You might notice yourself getting a little bit more impatient with other people's stuff. You might feel a little bit pricklier. It's fine. You're just going to go through that. So you step into yourself fully. Then what's going to happen is your organization patterns are going to come in, and then you'll know exactly what you need to adjust so that you can improve your finances. So that's that's what's up for you guys. All right. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave a note below. And if you're inspired, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you. All right, group 4. You guys are up. Let's go ahead and see what's going on for you guys. So the first word that I get is camaraderie. So that's like what money is trying to guide you towards. It's basically the way that you make money, and the way you've done it for probably a long time has been kind of you, a much more individual, going out and making a bunch of money. So what money is trying to help you into is a sense of camaraderie, like brotherhood, sisterhood with other people, so that you're part of, you know, a larger thing rather than you just doing it off on your own and just feeling like kind of siloed and isolated. So one thing that money's constantly trying to do and likes to enable and play a part in is how money can bring people together, how money can create a sense of collaboration, camaraderie, fellowship, and that kind of stuff, because through our pursuit for money, it often gets us to connect with other people, and we get to feel that sense of human connection that otherwise we would miss out on. So that's kind of what money is trying to enhance in your life. You might be feeling kind of like forced into a corner with money right now. What it's trying to do is it's not trying to beat you up or punish you or any of that stuff. What it's trying to do is trying to get you into more human connection and more partnership with other people. Because oftentimes that's like the genesis for friendship. That's what money wants for you, is for you to be like back in intermingling with the world rather than just like locked in isolation. I mean, we can look at like the current lockdown restrictions and stuff like that. Like, look at how much it's fragmented society, and people have been forced into like their little boxes. And money is trying to push you so that you start intermingling with the world again. In case you felt kind of reclusive, like a hermit, and just removed from the world. Let's see what other information I can get. Okay, so the pattern that's in place here is it's just like I'm safer on my own. So as I'm talking about all this stuff, you might not even identify as like an introverted person, as someone that kind of stays away from other people intentionally, but you just had to do that because you feel like that's the only way for you to make money with any consistency, stability, and reliability. So what money wants is it wants to act as like a platform for that human connection to flourish in your life. So if you're feeling like pushed into a corner or like you have to work extra hard for money right now, it's trying to get you to shift your course just a little bit so that you start seeking for that human connection, and then through that a lot more abundance and money and all that stuff can reach you. Just give me a sec because this one's resonating a personal chord. So the other thing I'm noticing for this group is there's a big desire for a lot of speed in hitting your financial goals. Like you don't want to just like take the long road. You don't like patient investing and that kind of thing. So for you want it to happen now and you want it to happen fast. And the reason you might be in a bit of a struggle with money is because it's trying to incentivize you to take the longer route. It's like that African proverb, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with a group. So that's kind of what money is trying to nudge you into. It's like the idea of a group, because not only will you go further in your financial development, but you'll also be much more fulfilled the entire time. So if you've been struggling, that's the positive intention that money has for you. So if you'd like to let that go, let me talk about the new pattern that we could install instead of that. Okay, so the new pattern that we'll install instead of that, it's like you still grow and everything, but you're able to maintain your personal sense of like sovereignty while still in a group. So the reason that you took this pattern on is because like the dangers of groupthink, where basically the whole group, just everyone decides, oh, we're going this way. It's like that mob mentality. And then the whole group pushes you that way. And then even if you didn't want to go that way, you end up going that way because there's so much group momentum. So what you've achieved by doing this isolation period is you become very, very strong in and of yourself, so that now you can be in a group, and if the group pushes into one direction and they start saying, okay, we're going to start moving this way, you don't necessarily have to go with it, but you can still benefit from like the enhanced momentum when the decisions that you make, the directions that you want to go for yourself, happen to also be in line with them. So it's like just like a wave, like you can benefit from the waves when it's there. And if you don't want to ride those waves, you can paddle to other parts on the beach and you can just go find your own spot. So now that you're capable and pretty solid in and of yourself, and you won't be swept up in that like groupthink, the collective consciousness stuff, now you're in a spot where you can step back in and you can benefit from the collective stuff because you won't be swept away and lose yourself to the group. You may have actually been running into people lately who remind you of the contrast. Like you'll see them and they just kind of like go along with the group. It's like they're not even making their own decisions. They just go with whatever the group tells them to think. And you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. So you see them and then it kind of freaks you out because you're like, I don't want to go back to that. You're not going to go back to that. It's showing you this is how far you've come. Basically, your higher self is trying to show you, look at the progress that you've made. Look at how different you are, so that now you can go back and enjoy groups. So the image that I'm getting is like, it's a single fish and then like a school of fish. And the school of fish, everyone is like gray, you're orange, and then you can stay over here to the side. You can go in with the group if that's beneficial to you, but you can also separate out. So that's like the new pattern that you're gonna have. Let me relate all this back to like money and what that actually means. You'll be able to read trends better. You'll be able to resonate better with your audience. You'll be able to connect more with a broader group of people while at the same time retaining your individuality, which is super useful when you're selling products, services, whatever. You may have felt in the past like kind of like an outcast, outlier on the fringes of society and nobody gets you. But after this, you'll still retain your sense of individuality, but you'll be able to resonate and be relevant, and people will want to interact with you. It's like it'll feel safe for them to interact with your fringe personality. So if you'd like that as your new pattern, I'm going to go ahead and do some energy work on you. If that's a yes, open up your energy. If it's no, or you're unsure, just stay closed and sit with it for a little bit, and then if you decide that you want to accept a new pattern, then come back and you can listen. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that. Okay. So after this, you'll probably feel like a lot stronger in your unique expression of yourself. And then what's going to happen is people are going to start gravitating towards you quite a bit. And then money is going to naturally happen as a result of that. Yeah, it feels like you guys are going to be feeling pretty good after this. So yeah, let me know how that shows up for you or doesn't show up for you in your life. You can like, comment, and subscribe below. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Hey, group 5. So for this group, basically you're going to have like mentors and guides coming into your life to help you with all the financial stuff. So this could be some healing around patterns having to do with the father. It's like where you don't have to feel so isolated and alone, like everything's completely on you. This group, you probably feel super self-reliant, super capable, and money may still be a struggle for you, but you have the tremendous amount of confidence in yourself. You're like, yeah, whatever, but I'll figure it out just like I figured everything else out. So there's some healing going on with you and like the archetypal masculine energy, because money, a lot of times it gets personified as a father. A lot of times I see money step in to play like a father figure role for people that don't have fathers around in their lives. It's a way for there to be that support structure in somebody's family system. So for you, even though you are capable, even though you can do it by yourself, money would like to enter your life to help you out with this stuff. So what's going to happen is to prime you for that experience, you're going to start having like mentors and guides. So you have other people that come in that are super helpful in supporting you succeeding within the structure that's required for finances to improve and grow and all that stuff. So I wanted to bring something personal up here because it's totally relevant. So lately I've been watching a ton of YouTube videos all about finances, how to handle like large amounts of money. So one of the things that all the videos talk about is having safety in counsel. So that's what is trying to, like, your higher self is guiding you towards. It's to get prepared for you to have more abundance so that you don't squander it. Because yes, it's painful not to have money, but it's even more painful to like get a bunch of money coming in and then to lose it because you didn't know how to handle it, you couldn't manage it properly, you made poor decisions. So by having guides and mentors, you'll get like some healing within, you know, the masculine energy and just your relationship with that, with whatever the father means to you. Plus you'll have more like that kind watching over you masculine energy that's just making sure that the new abundance that comes into your life, you can handle it well so that the opportunity amplifies you instead of destroying you. You can see this case with lottery winners a lot of the time. You know, they just get this huge influx of wealth and then they don't know how to handle it. They just like spend all this stuff away and, you know, make poor decisions with it, and then they have nothing. And then they have, on top of having the nothing that they had before, now they have a ton of shame about themselves for having screwed it up. When that kind of thing, like, they need to kind of be groomed and have access to like the education and guidance required for them to sustain that so that it becomes a gift rather than a curse. So that's what's happening for you, is like those mentors and guides, they're starting to come into your life, but you do have to open up and you have to allow them to be there and you have to allow them to support you. They can't give to you unless you are willing to receive whatever it is that they want to give. It doesn't mean you have to like lose yourself and just not think and not make your own decisions. Quite the contrary. It's like you just have to be willing to listen to what it is that these guides and mentors want to share with you so that you can start plucking the things from their advice that's really useful to you. I mean, I used to do this all the time in business. When I was growing my businesses, the first thing that we did before we did any of the other stuff, we built this board of advisors so that we could go, and if we didn't know what to do, we had like a list of like 20 other really, really successful business people that we could call and say like, hey, here's the problem, I don't know how to handle it. And 100% of the time, if we just started going through that list, it wouldn't take very many calls before they had gone through the exact same problem in their own careers, and then they could just like share like, here's how you handle that. So that's basically what's going on for you within this small area of money. So the energy pattern that you have to let go of is like, it's like overly self-reliant. I tend to joke with clients about this, that, you know, because I understand the appeal to be self-reliant and to be, you know, self-sufficient and that kind of thing. But like the idea of the self-made man is just insane. I mean, when you were born, did you pop out and then take the scissors out of the doctor's hand and be like, here, I'll cut my own umbilical cord? We're all made up of other people and all the kindness that's come to us through other people. So there's a balance there. Yes, there's another side where you're just like leeching and mooching off of everybody, but if you're watching this, you're probably not like that. So the energy pattern that we're going to let go of is you having to do every single thing yourself, and then opening you up to allowing those mentors to come in, provide you with the knowledge so that you can still achieve the things that you want financially. You still retain the dignity of knowing that like you contribute to it, but you do it in partnership with this bigger, broader aspect of yourself that's guiding you the whole way. It's a collaboration with whatever higher power you believe in. And if you don't believe in higher powers, you can just view it as like your higher self. Yeah, so you can still achieve whatever you want to achieve, retain the dignity, but also do it in partnership where you don't have to go the whole road alone, which will be super healing for you. So if that sounds good, open up your energy, say yes. If that sounds bad or you're not sure, close your energy and just say no. And as always, it's always your choice. And I'm just going to start working on you. If you're like driving or doing other things, you might want to pause the video, come back to it, and wait till you're settled down. Don't do this while you're doing other things. It can be very disorienting. And I want you to be safe. So this metaphor is coming into my head. You know, when they have a bunch of people standing around in a circle and then they're like holding on to like a cloth or something, and then somebody gets into the middle and then they pull the cloth like this and then it shoots the person up in the air and then they're flying up. That's what's in store for you, where before you're just trying to like jump really high and get that thrill. So the same things that you have to go through there, it's like you have to allow the people to help you, you have to release that need to be self-reliant. That's how they fling you, so you go up super high and you have to trust them to catch you. That's what you have to open up to. So that's the pattern that I'll be shifting, which will result in you getting like financial mentors and guides that will help you. Just pay attention to your heart, just like the heart chakra area. So after this, you might feel like less certain about the things that you felt like you knew earlier about money. Like you'll kind of feel a little fuzzy. The reason for that is that just helps you be more open to receiving mentorship. But don't worry, that'll go away. And then I also like added in a thing that makes you very good at distinguishing which mentors are there to help you and which ones are there where they seem like they're helping you but they're actually helping themselves, because they like having a follower around. For someone to be a teacher, they have to be at a certain level. And yeah, I just like put a thing in there so that you would kind of naturally sort for and filter out the ones that are not necessarily there for your absolute highest good or aren't capable enough to help you to your highest good. So you're going to get like really, really good teachers, and if they're not a good teacher, it's going to be really clear for you, and then you'll see it very easily, and then you can just say no to that. So yeah, super excited to see where that leaves you in a couple months. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.